What's up and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan. I am here with my co-host, Dave Martinson. Groundhog Day was this past weekend, Dave. Saturday. Got an early spring. And similar to Groundhog Day, it feels like every year I'm talking about the Patriots winning another Super Bowl. So I wanted to get this out of the way early. You knew I was going to bring it up. What were your thoughts on the game last night?
It's baseball season, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Bryce Harper, he's loading. Yeah, we're just waiting for all those free agents to sign. What an exciting offseason for that sport. We're going to get into the Super Bowl halftime show. We're talking about a lot of music and a TV show and a movie from Netflix today. But before we get into it, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to follow us in any format that you listen to your podcasts and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. We appreciate all the feedback and support. Super Bowl halftime show. Tom Brady didn't play great yesterday. Still got that ring.
No.
Adam Levine also not good yesterday. A lot of not very positive feedback for Adam Levine. What was your overall take on the quality of the halftime show? Then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about how this could be improved.
Yeah. Maroon 5 in general is just such a weak pick to do the halftime show. Like, they're arguably like the worst act ever picked in terms of like critical reception. Like, they're a band with one good album.
Right.
That's just really popular, and now they're the halftime show just because they ran out of options.
Adam Levine is very popular.
I mean, the songs do numbers. Like, Girls Like You is like 1 billion on YouTube. Like, the songs are big, but the records stink. And I wasn't expecting much. Having Travis Scott and Big Boy as supporting acts definitely felt a little odd. And sure enough, they were pretty shoehorned into the actual show itself. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Maroon 5 did it exactly as I expected. Super safe, pretty vanilla, and like there wasn't really much to it. I mean, it's like Justin Timberlake last year, but just worse because the songs aren't as good, and they don't like dance or do anything like crazy like that. So it's just pretty low in the entertainment factor. Like, today I watched Katy Perry again. I watched Lady Gaga again. I watched Beyonce and the Bruno Mars. Like, there's so much more to those shows, and also the music's better. So yeah, I was very underwhelmed.
Yeah, man. It's I mean, before they got to Adam Levine, it seems like they asked a lot of people who just did not want to do it for political reasons. Right. A lot of people standing in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, feeling like the NFL has blackballed him, which, they pretty much have. He pretty much got blackballed out of the league for his political stance. It's amazing to me that probably my favorite moment of the whole halftime show had nothing to do with anyone that was actually there. It was SpongeBob showing up, which just like blew me away. I was like, I can't believe, because there were rumors beforehand.
There was a whole petition about it,
Yeah, and Adam Levine had even said that, he's definitely gonna be part of it. Like, that whole thing's gonna be part of it. I was like, are they really gonna do Sweet Victory or like even like a part of it? And it was cool that they at least had part of it for leading into Travis, and then Travis just being ridiculous.
Yeah, Travis was actually really interesting and John Carmonica tweeted this. He was not using autotune. That was his normal voice. He like never performs that way. Mm-hmm. He also cursed a shit ton, assumingly, because they kept cutting out for the broadcast. But I thought he was pretty good for. I mean, he has a good reputation for this, but I thought he was pretty good. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, though, what did he do? He did sicko mode, right? Like, yeah. It's still kind of a jarring thing to have that follow Maroon 5, but I thought Big Boy coming in for The Way You Move as his second song actually worked good or better, having Levine do part of the hook, doing his weird dancing. Like, I thought that worked a little better. Travis just felt like he got the quick bag and dipped,
Yeah, and honestly, good for him. When Big Boy showed up, that was just a wonderful moment, seeing him in that big fur coat riding in a freaking Cadillac. Like,
hopefully it was fake.
So, yeah. But man, it honestly just like my main takeaway is Adam Levine is just not as good singing as he's kind of propped up to be. And for a lot of singers, as they get older, they can't hit those high notes as well. But like if that's your whole thing, like you gotta find a new slant dog. Like you gotta find something that's gonna translate better than that did. So are there any ways you think that they could maybe approach this differently to improve it next year?
Well, it's weird because who are you gonna ask that hasn't done it before? It's not that many people. I think like the Foo Fighters and Pearl Jam, they've actually never done it. Neither of them. They're big enough bands that they at least, would make sense. They're a little smaller than Coldplay, but I could see that. But in terms of other bands, I mean, they've done all the legacy acts. They're all too old now, right? Stones, The Who, Tom Petty, like they all did it already. Bruce Springsteen, like
yep.
I don't know who's left from like the 20th century, and there's not that many big bands this year as we've long established, and I don't think they're ever going to do just a rapper, all rap show. Doing it the Super Bowl in Atlanta was their opportunity, and they didn't do it. They had all those shows on Saturday in the area, which apparently looked pretty cool. But like I think they did ask Jay-Z apparently, or rumored, and he said no. He's big enough. Pre-freak out Kanye would have been big enough, but there's not that many. I mean, do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, I don't really. I think that they either need to scale it back a little bit, which is weird to say. I know it's like the biggest music moment of the year is how they bill it, but it almost feels like maybe just going something a little more regional. Like if they had gone with just people from just Atlanta rappers or like bands from there, I feel like that would have been maybe true to form. When it was in New Orleans, like it would have been very easy to find like maybe a decent like jazz act, something like that. I think the thing is like the people who are watching this for the halftime show are the people that don't really care about the football that much. So sure. I don't think it's going to affect the rating significantly if they were to scale it back and try to play for a more niche thing. I just don't think that you're ever going to get the return that you want on it. It's a no-win situation for the artist as well, because there's no way to really do that well unless you're like Prince, basically. Like Prince killed it.
I mean, you would think that more artists would be interested because like the data does show that you sell more tickets on your tours after doing this, because they don't even get paid for this. But they have other tangible benefits. So it's like, it's just the exposure, right? But yeah, I mean, the ratings are down anyway. Live event ratings across the board are down. This was one of the lowest rated Super Bowls in like 20 years or something. That's not
Patriots fatigue.
It has nothing to do with the halftime show or really even the Pats. I don't think. No. It's just less people are tuned in. The Oscars will be down too. The Grammys this Sunday will be down. Like that's just the way it is these days. But yeah, I don't know. Like an Atlanta medley of like lower tier acts, like I thought that would have made perfect sense. You could have had legacy acts like Outkast, of course, or just Big Boy and some of the newer guys as well. And that just I don't know. It's disappointing. But I mean, Taylor Swift hasn't done it. Actually, I guess.
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
She's like the last one. Yeah, Ed Sheeran too. That's a good one.
Like I don't know, Bieber would probably be the only other one I could think that could
finish up the pop megastars, because they're not going to pick rappers and the rock bands are gone basically.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think they're also going to have to start to embrace more of hip hop culture. They still kind of play this very much more to like rock bands, and I think they're gonna have to start embracing hip hop if they want to keep propelling this and just stay in touch with what's popular now, which seems to be kind of what they're going for. So anyways, Super Bowl, great outcome for the game, but for the halftime show, pretty big dud. So why don't we move on to some music that will liven us up, but we'll start with one that I don't think we're gonna like too much. American Authors. Woo, buddy. Yeah. Were you familiar with American Authors before I asked you to listen to this?
I was not. No, I didn't know who sang The Best Day of My Life. And then when I YouTubed it, I was like, oh, this song is made by these guys? I don't even know who these guys are. Okay. But shit, American Authors makes Maroon 5 look like the Beatles, man. God, not good.
Yeah. So they blew up in 2014 with Best Day of My Life and Believers. And then they had an album in 2016, their sophomore album, that didn't really capture the same audience and the same popularity that their first one did. So they took an extra year this time. It took 3 years to make this album or drop it. And Seasons, yeah, this is their gritty album. This is supposed to be their dark, it shows that they have another side to them album. And yeah. So American Authors, what was your thought on their album Seasons?
Yeah, it's just really vapid, soulless pop rock. It's Mumford and Sons and Imagine Dragons, but somehow even worse because it's even less original, has even less of an identity. It's just like I'm listening now. Like in the beginning, I'm like, all right, this is pretty radio friendly. Oh wait, so is this song? Oh, they're all the same. They're all like really chanty choruses, and it's just designed for streaming and radio. That's all this is. It's just fucking Spotify core.
Yeah, it is. And I think the comparison I immediately went to in listening to this is them trying to be Imagine Dragons, but really doing it very poorly. And that's not to say I think very highly of Imagine Dragons, but I think that they're able to find a likability, or their songs at least are catchier in some sense. I couldn't even really find a song on here that really stood out. I thought like Say Amen was like a really weird song, but I guess like okay. I feel like when they're happier, maybe it was easier, but man, yeah, I don't really know if there's even a song on here I would recommend anyone to listen to.
Yeah, same with me. I didn't even write song titles down. I quickly checked out on this one. I mean,
yeah,
at its best, it's not like offensive or anything. It just doesn't attempt to do much of anything either, So it's just kind of there. So, but that's kind of what they're going for, obviously.
Yeah, they're just trying to find, kind of similar to Maroon 5. They're trying to find one or two songs that will pop off on this album and that will catch some radio attention, but I don't think they're going to be very happy with this. So, moving on to a band that is a little bit more, I'll say fine-tuned. Girlpool dropped their. We're talking about a lot of third albums today, strangely enough. Dropped their third album. What Chaos is Imaginary. I thought that this album was pretty interesting in a lot of ways. So, Girlpool is a band that I've been pseudo familiar with. I've listened to a couple of their songs on past work, but I never really was very into the band. Reading up on this album, I think what intrigued me most was Cleo Tucker, one of the lead singers, recently came out as trans and has been taking hormones to transition from female to male, and it has deepened his voice and brings a lot more of a distinct vocal sound to this album and a distinction between the two, which I think was pretty interesting. And I also thought that they were able to pack a lot of different sounds into this. At its core, it's dream pop, but it seems to really fluctuate depending on what they're trying to get across in the song. I'm wondering if you like this, because I know this is in that indie sphere where it could either be a really big hit for you or it's going to fall flat.
Yeah, it's not really for me. It's kind of like beach house, it's just so mellow and like, dream pop. I never really can connect with these kind of songs just because the vocals don't really do anything for me. But they did change it up sometimes. I think songs like Pretty and Higher towards the beginning, those songs were more lively, both vocally and instrumental, that they almost kind of felt like brief, like detours from the rest of the sound. It's like I was actually like, I like these, I could listen to these again. But then once it slows down again, it's just too mellow for me. But to be expected if you know my taste.
Yeah, I actually, those are the two that stood out to me. It's also two of their singles off this, along with the title track. And I thought the title track was also really good. That really had these like thumping drums to it, and then it had the strings kind of create that like dreamy aspect to listening to it. I thought that this album had a lot of good messages and was probably one of the more interesting ones in terms of just lyrical content and subject. I think it helps that probably one of the people who is contributing to the lyrics is going through a major change in their life and has a lot of things to draw on for inspiration at this time. But it really does talk about like, grappling with who you were, transitioning to somebody new, and everything in between there. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think when this album is at its most boring are songs like Joseph's Dad, where it's kind of just like a straight acoustic indie. And when they are experimenting with different sounds and different ways of creating that dream pop element and like bringing guitars in, it really adds a lot. When they go more towards just making it like a classic singer-songwriter type song, it kind of falls flat for me. But yeah, Higher and Pretty were the two that stood out to me as well. Higher actually reminded me a lot of Oasis, and then when it transitioned to Pretty, it reminded me a lot of the Cranberries. Like at first I was like, man, this is a pretty cool transition between the two. Girlpool's a band that I think I'm going to be tuning into a lot more, because I feel like they have a lot of potential, but they're still kind of figuring out how to harness that. So definitely check that out. We'll be adding that to the playlist. You can find our playlist on Spotify. Just search for Nowstalgia Best of 2019. Somebody else I think we're going to be adding a song or two for is Emily King with her third album, Scenery. Dave, this one I don't think you're going to like either, but give me your thoughts.
No, I like this a lot more. Emily King is a little soft spoken throughout this record, but I found the instrumental is much more interesting, and because it's ultimately much more indebted to like traditional pop than say Girlpool, I was able to connect with it more. I thought like Look at Me Now, and Can't Hold Me in the beginning were probably the songs that jumped out to me the most. I mean, towards the back end it did slow down for me, but I like this. I think I want to definitely check out some of her other stuff, because I think lyrically she's pretty interesting, and I was reading that her first album was actually Grammy nominated. So interesting artist. I was not familiar with Emily King. Had you listened to her before?
No, I wasn't very aware. I wasn't aware of her at all. And then checking out this album, I was pretty impressed. But it's very soft. Like she sings in a very soft and distinct style that I think if it doesn't totally grab you, this can feel like a bit of a clunker. I still think that like the production on this and the different sounds and some of the breakdowns, sound wise and then just instrumentally, were pretty fantastic. Like the end of Teach You has like this really cool like minute and a half breakdown that's just very like dancey and like 80s pop sounding, which I thought was great. But I do think her voice at times kind of leaves me feeling a bit sleepy, which I think is going to be something that she'll have to really focus on her production and the different sounds she brings to albums to kind of keep people engaged. But I agree. I think she's a very interesting artist to check out and delve back into, because it seems like she's very well received critically, and has an interesting style. Go Back was one that stood out to me. Like the end of that, had like, I think the guitars to it that kind of like Girlpool really pulled me in this week. So definitely check out Emily King. What song do you think you want to add to the playlist?
Probably Look at Me Now. That was one I liked the most, just because it was more lively. Which again, if there's a song like that that can stand out on an album that's otherwise softer, that's usually what I gravitate to.
Absolutely. What about G Herbo? So give me a little bit of background on him. I wasn't very aware of him. I've heard the name, but I don't really know much about him other than he's, I think, Chicago based, right?
Correct. Yeah, he was a 2016 XXL freshman. But of course, he's probably one of the lesser known guys that year. Of course, he's not as big as 21 Savage, Free 21, or Uzi, Yachty, all those guys. But Herb's been around a long time. He used to go by Little Herb when he first came up. He's featured on Nicki's single Chirac, because obviously that's where he's from. And he's been around the block for a while. Then he really started to level up from the mixtapes at the end of 2017, where he dropped his first record, Humble Beast. And then last year, he also dropped Swervo in the summer, which was a collab with the producer Southside. And this one, Still Swervin', is also a collab with Southside. And Southside, you might have heard his tag before. He's also like the head of 808 Mafia, a tag everyone should know. They make a lot of stuff. But yeah, Herbo, here's interesting because we talk about Chicago a lot. We usually talk more about like the jazz rap side of things, the tree of Chance the Rapper, right? But Chicago also very much has this new like the drill lineage, right? Chief Keef, Herbo, Lil Bibby, a lot of guys like that. So Dreezy was probably more in that camp as well, who we just talked about. But Herbo, he's actually has a fair amount of music for a guy who's been still kind of under the radar, I guess. Like he's mainstream and he's connected with all the mainstream guys, but he didn't really have any big moment or big hit until he did that Who Run It freestyle last year, which kind of sparked everyone else to do a freestyle of that old song. And he has, I think my favorite song from him is Everything. The remix with Chance was pretty good. But overall, he's an artist that I've kind of just appreciated his vibe more than any like singular song per se, because I don't think he has like a great project yet. But I mean, what was your take as someone who was just getting used to him and after coming off Dreezy, another Chicago artist?
Yeah, I found this album to just, especially compared to what else we were listening to this weekend, very like jarring almost, because it went so hard. Like it was, and it stayed, like it was up there and it stayed at a high level of intensity throughout, which I think was good, but I think it also stayed up there so often that it almost started to feel almost like too singular. Like I couldn't really distinguish some of the tracks at points. Nothing really stood out as like an amazing track. I'd say Okay was probably the one that I liked the most. Yeah, I think I also liked Up It a lot. But
sure.
I also didn't find his wordplay or anything like that to be super impressive. So this didn't really stand out to me as a great project, but I did think his energy and just the songs in general, like the beats were interesting and fun to listen to. So I think that he can be good. I think this just is not the I don't think this is the project that's going to catapult him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the thing with Herbo is he has a lot of different flows. He does switch it up a fair amount, but his voice always is pretty much the same. And I think it can sound a little monotonous because his content's pretty focused on his life in Chicago, growing up and having a hard time with that, obviously. So when he's talking about the same stuff more or less throughout all of his music, if the voice isn't changing that much, I agree the songs can feel samey, and that's even if he's kind of changing the flows or changing the patterns. But I do think he has potential to be great. But this was like, I don't think there's any songs that were really bad. I mean, some of these might have been a little copied together, but it's just mainly all solid stuff. And I want to see him get past solid, because like the drill scene in Chicago has slowed, has waned. And he's kind of removed himself from that. But I really want to see him again. Like he had the Who Run It moment. That was great for him. But I want to see some kind of, hit that's like a Herbo hit, because when we think of him, we just think of what we've just said, this hard Chicago vibe more than any like real style. So yeah, I'm still in on Herbo, but I want to hear more.
I do think there's one song he sings on, which is Yerk 30, I believe it is. I think when he sings is actually pretty interesting and decent. So I think maybe if he were to lean a little bit more into that to at least like bring some variation to the songs, maybe that could be a recipe for some differentiation at least. But
right,
any songs on here that really stood out to you?
I actually like the last two songs, Wilt Chamberlain and Hood Cycle, a lot. I actually thought he paired well with Juice WRLD, another Chicago artist that's quite different than him. Juice had a pretty good freestyle, and actually I was surprised. I really liked Gunna's freestyle on Train to Kill. I'm usually not big into Gunna, but I thought that worked really well. And then just a solo song, I really like to Do Your Shit. So like again, there's a lot of solid stuff on here. But yeah, maybe just bounce around with it as opposed to just the full listen. But Herbo, definitely name to watch still. I'm expecting more.
So again, check all those albums out, and you can find the tracks we like the most. Nowstalgia Best of 2019. All right, moving on to TV. Netflix just pumping out the content, man. It's non-stop. There's always something to watch on that channel. They actually just picked up the Ted Bundy Zac Efron movie today.
9 million.
So crazy. Like they're just constantly pumping stuff out. And one of those shows, Black Earth Rising, this I guess it's not really a courtroom drama, but it's a political lawyer drama
It's
about
about legal stuff. Yeah, it's a legal
yeah,
drama, I would
legal
say.
drama about war criminals during the Rwandan genocide and years afterwards, kind of uncovering some of what happened and trying to prosecute these people. It's interesting. It stars Michaela Cole, John Goodman, among a bunch of other people. This is a show that feels like it has all the elements to be a really interesting, gripping, great show. And somehow the formula just didn't add up for me. I think that it had some really good moments and there were some pretty good performances, but a lot of time it left me just feeling kind of like it missed the mark. Maybe it was pacing, maybe it was too many characters, I think at points, and
Yeah.
a bit of a confusing plot. But I think there's a lot of elements that we can kind of dive into. But how did you feel about the show as a whole?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's another mini series, Hugo Blick, Englishman. That's what he's done recently. Was it the Honorable Woman and the Shadow Line? His most recent two. Maggie Gyllenhaal, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Christopher Eccleston. Between those two shows, like he's pretty well known in terms of making these UK miniseries. And this, again, like you said, on paper sounded great. Talking about some really heavy shit. Get John Goodman as a supporting role. And then Michaela Cole, who's kind of been coming up for a while, really getting a chance to shine. And I agree. I think pacing's probably an issue. I think the script was just unnecessarily clunky, and like things were more confusing than they needed to be, because it's not like anything was that confusing or hard to follow. It just sometimes was presented that way, which is bad because you're already talking about, heavy stuff. So it's not the best mix there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, because I really liked how it started at first. And I was like, I'm really in already. I thought that first scene, where the guy basically challenges Kay's mom on the the neocolonialism of it all, right? And it really reminded me of that Jeff Daniels scene in the newsroom, the first episode, where he's like, America isn't great anymore. It was basically the mission statement of the show right in the beginning.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is cool. I know exactly what they're going for. And yet, I think they kind of like fumbled the ball at the end, because they never really delivered on that message beyond getting the initial premise. So it was disappointing. I still think there's a lot to like here, but as far as the co-productions, the BBC co-productions on Netflix I talked about recently, Bodyguard, Collateral, even Sex Education was made in England. This is probably on the lower end, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think what drew me in most was John Goodman. I think he's just a wonderful actor. And his character, I think, was somehow underserved, especially, or at least maybe John Goodman as an actor was underserved in this role, because he has so much charisma and so much charm. He can play so many different roles well. And I felt like he pretty much just had to be like a more subdued kind of middleman in this. He got really like one or two scenes to really cook. In one of those scenes, he was drowning in like a river, or what was that? A river, ocean, lake. And somehow Michaela Cole's Kay Ashby character is able to pull this 350-pound man out of the depths of the water after almost drowning herself. That was just a very bizarre and baffling and dramatic scene. But I felt like other than Kate, not many of the characters really got to reach their full potential. I don't know. I don't know if maybe you agree with that, but I don't think that means that their performance was bad, but the characters, because there was so much going on and they had so many different people involved, never really got to be what I think they could have been.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, also, like a guy as talented as John Goodman, you give him like that oldest trick in the book. Here's your daughter in a hospital, easy sympathy, all slash place to give speeches. Like,
Right.
That's just clunky part of the screenplay that you just need to fix. I think in terms of like, as the way the plot moved, I liked it. What was it, episode 3 or 4, where there was that old guy who made all his money off the ivory, like that mansion. I thought his exchanges with Kate were pretty compelling, but meanwhile, like the plot was kind of meandering the whole time, right? All to like, and like for that whole payoff was about this photo of these French soldiers, and like again the premise about like the culpability of the French and whether Europeans should be the ones handing out the justice for crimes committed in Africa, and whether that's just a new form of colonialism in the modern day. That's all really good stuff and worth exploring, but it just kind of seems like the weird plot almost got in the way of that more than it helped, And I didn't think the message at the end was all that compelling. So yeah, it's frustrating because like again, like I was really, really involved and really into it in the beginning, and I just think it just started to fade away as the screenplay just was unintentionally or unintentional forced errors all the time, So disappointing, but not bad. It's just you can just see the skeleton. You can see how much better it could have been, and I think that actually makes it even more disappointing because you could see the potential right there.
Yeah, it's such a great idea, and an interesting idea. I think the Rwandan genocide is one of the tragedies of the last 30 years that probably is least understood by maybe like the common American, or maybe even the common citizen of the world outside of some of these countries that were more involved and closer to it. So it's something that at least for me feels like it should grip my attention, and it just didn't. And I also feel like I mean, I think there were some really cool moments, but I think it almost got bogged down into all the moving parts, and maybe even like simplifying the script a bit would have really done some good. Hugo Blick though plays a pretty good like asshole villain. I gotta give him credit. He was the lawyer got killed in the car. Like I hated him, man. Like I was like, damn, this guy is so good at being hateable. Also, shout out to Tamara Tooney,
yes,
who has been in like a bunch of Law and Orders in the past and stuff. But she gets to be this like very powerful woman. And I thought she was actually really good in her role. And every time she showed up, I really felt like she brought some life to what was going on, even if somehow she just was able to pull things together all out of thin air a lot of the time, and sometimes backhandedly. So any last thoughts on Black Earth Rising?
I'm looking forward to seeing more from Michaela Cole again. I think the screenplay held her and Goodman back, but she's clearly a talent. I mean, she was in USS Callister in a supporting role, and I believe she broke out with a show called Chewing Gum, but I was never really familiar with her. And I believe she's already in her 30s. So this is nice that she's 31. So nice that she's getting a nice look here. So I'm sure she'll get cast in some more stuff very soon.
Someone that I have a feeling is going to be breaking out very soon is the star of Hannah. I'm not going to be able to say her name. Esme Creed Miles. I really cannot say this name. Esme Creed Miles. Sorry, I need to put my glasses on for this. Washed, dude.
Come on, man.
Freaking washed.
It's not that bad.
Crazy. I thought I just literally couldn't read it. This is embarrassing. Anyways, as Esme Creed Miles, I thought she was great in this pilot. Right after during one of the commercials, Super Bowl said, Hannah, they're gonna be dropping the first episode for 24 hours on Amazon Prime right after the Super Bowl. So we were like, we gotta get on this. Got our guy Joel Kinnaman gonna be cooking, and it's really him and her in the first episode. It shows Joel Kinnaman taking this baby, in this crazy chase and a very action-packed beginning, and then raising Hannah to be this warrior killing machine. It seems like. I thought the pilot was pretty intriguing, and it leaves a lot there to uncover and learn about. I also thought it was fairly realistic. I think a lot of times there are these these movies where someone's like raised in the wild and then confronted with modern society can be very like tropey, and this actually felt kind of true to how I feel like someone in that situation might react upon facing some of those things. What was your take on the pilot for Hannah?
Yeah, I agree. I thought the pilot actually, I really liked the pace of it. It doesn't waste any time with Kinnaman taking the baby in the beginning, right? That goes very quick. Nor does it waste much time with their training in the forest. By the end of the pilot, they're already separated. She's already captured. Like it's very quick. And in that 48 minutes, it establishes, as you said, her strengths and everything she's learned, as well as her lack of connection with the outside world. It really establishes everything you need right away. And also we get a fair amount of action, which I thought looked pretty cool, both like the stealth stuff and the actual like hand to hand stuff. So as well as a chase in the beginning with the helicopter, right? So I thought as far as this kind of show, which is, I think it's like an action thriller, probably similar to Jack Ryan, another show Amazon made. I think it is really effective in selling you on what the show is. And, I don't believe a lot of people saw the original Hannah movie in 2011, which I actually have always wanted to see. I haven't seen it, but I was looking back. I didn't realize it was directed by Joe Wright. And I didn't realize that Hannah was played by a young Saoirse Ronan. Not to mention Eric Bana and Kate Blanchett are also in it.
Right.
So,
crazy.
And from what I gathered, this pilot captures about the first third of the film. And I didn't seem like I didn't think they rushed anything. I thought they were naturally moving it quickly. So I think it was very effective. And also a nice look for Joel Kinnaman, because he's a guy I really liked when he's on House of Cards, a show that obviously was already falling off the time. I thought he was very compelling as that, was he a governor who was like running against Underwood? I forget exactly his character, but I really liked him there. And like he's had a lot of like tough breaks recently. He was the RoboCop remake guy. He was in Suicide Squad. He was in Altered Carbon. Like he's hasn't had a hit in a while. So I'm hoping this will help him out critically, just because it does seem like it's a more reserved role for him. Obviously, he's has a bit of an accent, So I'm quite intrigued and looking forward to seeing the show, which I believe is they're premiering sometime next month.
Yeah, I think that not only does it seem like this is going to be action packed, but I think there's going to be enough mystery to really keep people interested and kind of pull it along. I'm wondering if this is going to be a mini series or if they would consider doing more seasons of this, depending on popularity of it. I mean, Amazon, I'm sure if it gets enough popularity, will pay them to do it, especially because they're trying to get in that content game. But a lot to look forward to. Do we know when this is going to be dropping all the episodes?
Yeah, we don't even know how many episodes it is, but we just know it's coming in March. So yeah, I can't see anything, but it was a straight to series order. They didn't even they were confident in this. They ordered it right away. But yeah, we don't really know much about that. But yeah, in theory, if they go beyond the plot of the movie, there's a lot of free reign. I know they when I was reading, they aged this up a little bit. The original Hannah doesn't take place quite as in a modern setting. So that's part of it. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see more, Also shout out Joanna Kulig. She was the mom who died. And of course she was amazing in Cold War, which we'll be talking about in a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Cold War, but we're tabling that for right before the Oscars. Hannah seems to be very intriguing, and I thought Esme was great. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how she cooks throughout this whole thing. Yeah, Black Earth Rising, a little underwhelming. Hannah seems to be off to a better start than that. So let's hope it can keep the momentum. Something that gained a lot of momentum over the weekend and kind of unexpectedly was Velvet Buzzsaw, a movie by David Gilroy.
Dan Gilroy.
I knew I was going to mix it up. Dan Gilroy, that kind of came out of nowhere, it seems like. So Dan Gilroy, known for Roman J. Israel Esquire, Nightcrawler.
Being Tony Gilroy's brother.
yeah, exactly. He drops this film, and I gotta say, like, I watched it, and I was kind of left a little bit confused. And I think where I felt confused was I wasn't sure what tone the movie was going for exactly. Right. And listening to interviews with him and listening to him talk about it, I think on a rewatch, I would appreciate the film a lot more because I would kind of know the lens that he wanted you to see it from. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing about how this film was made, or if that means that the film was made well or not. I thought some of the performances were great, but yeah, it kind of left me with scratching my head a little bit. What did you think of Velvet Buzzsaw?
Yeah, I agree. Going in, I was like, all right, Dan Gilroy's next movie's coming out. Oh, it's a Netflix movie. Oh, it's like a horror thriller. Okay. Usually don't like horror movies. So I'll watch it though for the pod,
For
And
content
if it's
purposes.
more like Get Out or something like that type of horror film, I'll be into it. I'll be fine. But it's not really scary, you know.
No.
I mean, all like the quote scary moments are pretty goofy in general.
Mhm.
Also, they're almost exclusively in like bright settings. There's no
Mhm.
jump scares, It's not even a slasher film, so it's not really anything traditionally horror. But also, it's so like campy when it has those scenes. But yeah, overall, I thought like the whole like satirization of like the art world, you know,
Mhm.
and like LA culture and just putting value in inane things like art. I was like, that's a cool concept. You can do that with these kind of actors and these kind of characters and just go really hammy with it. I just felt like that in the screenplay conflicted with this uh, poltergeisty threat that's kind of nebulous, So
Right.
it almost seemed like the horror elements or the murder elements anyway were getting in the way of like any satire, any message that he was trying to get across. So
Yeah.
I found it entertaining just because I thought there was a lot of talented actors here and they're all pretty good in this. Um, but it was definitely jarring, and uh, I almost wonder what would the movie have been if you just kept all these like uh, crazy characters and just dropped all the ghost shit entirely and just did just
Mm.
satire. Like, could that have been better? I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head to a lot of the way I felt about the movie. Just like the satire mixed with the horror aspects didn't seem to really blend very well together.
Mhm.
Um, I think the satire was the strongest part. Just seeing Jake Gyllenhaal be this absolutely ridiculous, and
Yeah.
some of the lines that he said, and you could tell that everybody was having a great time playing the characters that they were in because they got to be these ridiculous, pretentious LA art critics who take these,
Mhm.
like you said, inane pieces of art and are like really breaking them down, talking about all this meaning behind them. I mean, for God's sakes, Jake Gyllenhaal's character's name is Morph Vanderwall. Like, what a ridiculous name! Like,
It's
all
so
these
on the
names are
nose.
so pretentious. It's amazing. But yeah, the horror part, it also seemed to kind of not really give the movie a lot of direction by the end. Like they were like, okay, we gotta kill all these people who are profiting off this art and exploiting this dead artist. So they kind of just put them in situations where they died, but it's like they were kind of doing it like leading up to it, and then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, everybody's gonna die by art in some
Right.
way.
And I think the other thing that reason it wasn't that scary is by the end, every death scene is just a telegraph set piece. All right, now we're killing this guy somehow.
Right.
Like there
Yep.
was no mystery to it. So, all right, here, like literally by the second time when what's his name, John gets hung by his tie. I was like,
Mhm.
you knew it was coming immediately as soon as like the lights turn off. Like I just and because it's not like because there's no jump scares because like horror movies can telegraph things all the time, but usually they can do it because it'll still be actually scary when you know it's coming. But this movie isn't interested in actually doing it that way, So you're just kind of watching it
Mhm.
happen. Um, my favorite character was Gretchen, played by Toni Collette. I thought she was
Mhm.
awesome. She also probably had one of the better deaths,
Yeah.
just having her arm get yacked.
So ridiculous.
But what one character I really did not like by the end was Josephina, played by Zoe Ashton.
Yeah.
Like she's in a lot of the plot. Like she's really the connective tissue for a lot of these characters, which are
Mhm.
throughout this world. And I don't know, I think she just descended into being very very unlikable. Starting off as someone that like her boyfriend cheated on her, and she's under appreciated at her job,
Yep.
working for this art dealer. Like, oh, okay, that's a good start. And then it just totally goes off the rails for her. Um, I really like Billy Bagnuson. I thought about him before. He did not get enough to do, died too quick. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
and there's one character that I think just didn't really, or was almost unnecessary. I thought John Malkovich, uh, his
Yeah.
artist character just felt so superfluous. Like he was just kind of there. But they
And
also
then
wasted whole scenes with him and other people that he just didn't feel important.
yeah, it almost felt like they really wanted to do more with him to kind of explain maybe Deese like
Yeah.
as an artist, like who he could have been. And then they were like, you know what, we're just gonna have him go away because his drinking problem has come back, and then he shows up for the ending credits. It was very strange. Just like they were like, oh yeah, we gotta do something with him. Okay, just go away. Pretty much all of the artists were treated that way. Like David Diggs, he was I think probably the funniest part of the movie for me. Like every time he showed up, like when he's cooking in the kitchen and
That was
Jake
funny.
Gyllenhaal, oh my god, that was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, it felt like they really underserved a lot of the artists and focused more on the critics and the people profiting off it, which I guess is probably supposed to be the point. Like these leeches profiting off other people's art, then meeting this demise. You know, it just kind of felt like it was going in all these directions and didn't tie it together very well. And like they had the part where you were learning about who Deese was and like his background. And it was like, okay, so maybe there's going to be like some payoff here, but there really wasn't. You have Natalia Dyer, who I thought, like, my theory throughout was like, oh, she's going to be like related to Deese because she's always the one to find the dead people. Like it seemed like she was always that. And then no, she just is there to find the dead people. Like that's her role.
And in the end, she just goes back to Michigan. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
A little like disappointing.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it gained a lot of attention over the weekend. You know, at Sundance, people were talking about it. But really, I think that this could have used a little bit more, maybe some script doctoring, maybe just some more thoughtfulness on like the direction overall.
Yeah. Well, it's just weird because Dan Gilroy's brother, Tony Gilroy, is like one of the most notorious fixers in Hollywood for this very reason. Notably saved Rogue One recently, right? You think he could have like seen the cut and been like, "Hey Dan, change this," because like him and Dan have written screenplays together, and like Dan Gilroy is obviously really talented. And like again, like I think like he had the idea of satirizing and doing it really campy and just going all in on the LA art scene. That's fine. I think that would have worked good, but it ultimately ended up just being really clunky, and by the end, the beats were very predictable. So disappointing given the pedigree, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're gonna wrap up there for this week. What do we got to look forward to next week, Dave?
Well, hopefully, 21 Savage will be out of ICE custody by next week. One can hope.
Fucking bullshit. And also, it's not. I know people are like making a lot of jokes, but I don't find it very funny.
I don't find it funny either. But also, like, why are you going after this dude who pays like hella taxes in America and is like good for American society? Like, the whole can of worms. I was very, very mad when I saw that news. Let's put it that way. Anyway, Russian Doll, which I mentioned last week, came out on Friday on Netflix. 8 episodes, 4 hours long. Pat, you've seen the whole thing already. You really liked it. Everyone liked it. I haven't started it yet. We're talking about the whole season next week, so make sure you watch that on Netflix. We're also going to be watching High Flying Bird, Steven Soderbergh's latest film about basketball and sports business and whatnot. His latest film to be shot on an iPhone. Steven Soderbergh, probably the least famous great director of the time. You know,
which is crazy because he made Ocean's 11, which is
I know
probably one of the most popular TV movies ever.
But so his movie coming out, it's an event in itself. So we're talking about that. The Grammys are on Sunday. As we've said before, the Grammys themselves don't matter because most musicians don't actually care about them. But we'll still talk about what happens because, you know, what's her name probably is going to win. Who's nominated for album of the year that came out of nowhere?
Oh man, I don't even know.
Yeah. We'll do some bloodletting on Monday. Let's put it that way. Ariana Grande, thank you. Next, you want it, you got it. Here it is. So we'll see how this record is. It hasn't been very long.
It? Did you want it? Me? I didn't want this. Yeah, no. Don't put this on me, Ricky Bobby.
And then lastly, Lego Movie 2. Lord and Miller still involved. Hot off Spider-Verse being a huge success for them. Early reviews are very positive once again, so we'll see how that turns out. But another big week. So make sure you pay attention.
Looking forward to using my new AMC A-list to go see Lego Movie this weekend. Save that money. Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't see Cold War with the playlist, so I ponied up to see it because I've heard such good reviews. Cold War was a very interesting movie-going experience. I'll talk more about it when we review it, but man, old people are just really bad to watch a movie with. Like, it's just not who you want to be with. So
yeah, I will say on that note, my dad starts to talk. He talks more and more at the movies than he ever has before.
Yeah,
like, and it's like not even at like a low volume anymore. It's like whatever he's thinking of as a prediction, he just says it.
Oh my god, that would be infuriating to me. Just all of a sudden, like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. No,
Yep,
couldn't be me. So yeah, tune in next week. We'll be talking about all that and probably more as things pop up. Free 21, go Patriots. All is right with the world with the Red Sox and Patriots, top of the sports of their respective sports. You know, a 4-month-old born in Boston has seen more titles than a Knicks, Jets, and what's the other one?
Yankees,
Oh,
Mets.
Mets fan has seen. So thank God that you're a Yankees fan, Dave. But
Yeah,
shout out all those Knicks, Jets, and Mets fans.
Yep.
See you next week.